Welcome to Ask the Professor. I'm your host, Professor Ben, and we go live every Wednesday at 11:45 Eastern so that we can help you guys work through all your challenges in business, in leadership, in influence, and all the hard things that we're going through every day in business. That's why we're here. Normally, we are joined by our producer, Ari. She is stuck in all the snowstorm mess coming back from her trip. So hopefully we'll see her next week, which means that Mike, you and I are flying solo. So anything can happen as I figure out all these buttons that I have to press. But we're joined by our first time guest, Mike Dodd, CEO and founder of Propane Ninja. Mike, thank you for carving time out to be on the show today.
Hey, thanks, Ben. Glad to be here.
Definitely glad to have you, man. We got some pretty intense conversations teed up for the audience today. These are, I would consider these like absolute must-hear topics for business leaders, for founders, because we're digging into the plateaus, maybe the S curves that we hit in business, right? These are just part of the growth process where we think we're making some progress. We realize things go flat for a little bit, and then hopefully we can get out of that and keep moving up. So important topics that we need to dig into.
Yeah, I've definitely been through a few plateaus for sure. It's been a challenging 12 years.
And also a pretty impressive 12 years at the same time, man. You guys, you started, I think, when you were in your mid-20s, right?
Yeah.
So fast forward 12 years later, you are selling really deep inside your market in Florida. We've got, tell me where all you go, Tampa, Orlando, where else do you guys serve?
I would call us Central Florida, but we do stretch to Naples, Fort Myers, Cape Coral, and we go all the way up to Gainesville and Orlando. So our densities are growing every year, but our core base is in Tampa Bay. We've moved around a couple times. Now we're in a headquarters that we built ourselves after a long journey of borrowing space. It's been exciting.
That's pretty wild. And I would say, so anyone that's in that Central Florida area, Tampa, as well, like you're going to see Propane Ninja out and about on the streets. You can't help it because your market penetration is so strong. So it wasn't an easy road, but you're making that progress and you've made it through some of those plateaus. So thinking about like, how does a founder, I'm going to put you on the spot. Let's get started right away for the audience, put you on the spot. So thinking about, building that infrastructure for your organization. You've grown from you and Peter as co-founders to how many employees do you have now?
So founded with just Peter and I, bootstrapping the business. We're at 75 employees today. And that's just kind of grown with scale and a lot of systems.
Yeah, absolutely. And that doesn't happen accidentally. You know, maybe there were some lucky accidents that happened your first few months, right? As the two of you are out there bootstrapping it and hitting the streets, trying to close new business and gain some traction. But you don't go from that start to 70 plus employees on accident. So talk to us a little bit about maybe just the infrastructure that you planned as you realized that this business was set for growth.
Sure. Yeah, we do some planning, definitely. In the beginning months and years, you are just trying to find your way. And the best way to plan is to listen to your customers. I think that's probably, I've said this so many times. I put my ear to the road and I listen to what our customers' needs are, or really even a prospective market. What is the need for my business? How can I get into a market? It's really just listening to the complaints. What are they complaining about with other vendors and other companies that they're working with today? And so we've been able to break through plateaus a lot of times by chasing those avenues, chasing those lanes, and growing into a full service propane company over the course of 12 years. What I've always been a proponent of, master that lane. Don't get distracted with all the different bells and whistles. Let's do things well, and then we can move on to the next lane. That's an important factor because you need to make sure your business stays in the black. In order to do that, you got to do things very well and be very skilled at that. So you can retain your customers and they don't leave you after you've signed them up. And I think that's a big part of our success. It's been part of that.
So, Holly, you hit on some really important topics here. And so thinking of founders that are finding themselves in a plateau now, or ones that are just launching, right, and getting themselves to this. And the truth is, Mike, this also applies to the salespeople listening to the show who may be stuck in their plateau, right, for their book of business. Take a step back and listen to what your customers, what your clients are saying. Complaints, that those complaints that you get, that's like free market research, right? They're telling you what's frustrating them, what's happening. So it's such a great point you bring up, is we have to listen to that. Sometimes go get it, sometimes just be open-minded enough to listen to what the customers are saying and master that specific space.
That's a good point. That's a really good point. I think I could give you lots of examples, but in the beginning we were doing a lot of cylinder exchange in propane, where you take your grill tanks and we found out there was a market available in patio heating, and that's how we kind of got into the market. I didn't know much about propane at the time, very little, in fact, and we were listening to those customers. Those would be hospitality customers saying, I have to lug these tanks down the road, go to the local Home Depot, and I got to send a busboy. Maybe he doesn't even have a pickup truck. Now I'm putting 10 tanks in their back seats, which is not legal, but it happens, because they're in a crunch. They're trying to get the patio ready for the winter nights, and that was happening. So that was how we were able to listen and say, wow, we can definitely do this for you. And we would show up, and new prospects would say, wow, you do that? That's amazing. I want that, and sign me up today. And that happened more times than not. So using those same techniques in other avenues where we get into industrial commercial environments, and we knock on doors, and the more we spoke to customers, the more we would learn about what their needs were and what the problems they were seeing with their existing vendors, where they were missing deliveries, they were missing, they weren't returning phone calls, or maybe they outsourced their phone system to another country, which has been a very popular trend lately, and we would take in and say, oh, great, you're with the right person now. I'm going to answer my cell phone, and my staff's going to answer within a certain period of time window. Make sure that we're responding to demands in a very short period of time. We call it, increasing that customer experience here, and that's a big part of success. Ongoing success is let's not let customers leave out the back door while you're gaining new customers in the front door. And that's a big part of our mentality here with Scale.
So, okay, again, such good insight here is listening. What are you listening for? The stories from customers, the problems that they probably didn't even know they had, right? In their mind, the only way to get patio fuel was to send the busboy out and put that in the back of his or her car. And they didn't know, A, it's dangerous, it's illegal, and they probably don't know there's such a better way. But as founders and as salespeople, we've got to go out there and find these stories, listen to them, and then help solve these problems.
Yeah, you definitely have to try to open up the onion of layers of what people are using. And when we were doing cylinder exchange, that was an easier way in. Like for us, that was a pathway into the industry that was less friction. There was less competition in that space than there was in, let's say, what we do now, a lot of which is bulk fuel deliveries. And so we chose, I call it the path of least resistance, right? So how do we travel a path where maybe the competition doesn't really want to be there, or they're not directed to be there, but you can figure out a way to make money. And I think that's an important, and you're solving problems. And I think that's the biggest. Well, let's listen. How do I build a solution to solve that problem that maybe my competition hasn't figured out that's a problem they need to solve yet? Yeah. So then you dive into that, and you're free. There's nobody knocking against you out there in the environment when you're driving solutions that are not necessarily mainstream solutions that your competition is offering today. That's a big, building those barriers to entry, right? Competitive advantages for your company and your sales techniques are huge to retaining customers, but also breaking those barriers down when you have that first conversation. It's like, well, we do monitoring. We monitor all of our propane tanks. There is still a lot of our competition out there that does not use IoT or telemetry for that active monitoring. So we'll dispatch before you need the fuel, right? Before you know you need the fuel, we're already on our way. Within a couple of days, we've already been notified. And it's that whole mentality of solve a solution and solve it for them so they don't have to think about it again. And your company is taking care of them.
Okay, so what I'm hearing from you is we're stuck at a, not you, but right, as business owners, we're stuck at a plateau. First thing is let's go listen to what's going on out there in the marketplace. Go talk to our customers, make sure that we're not losing them out the back door because we work so hard to get them. Right? We see that a lot in plateaus in business is, hey, our sales team's doing great. And we're losing customers out the back door because we're not listening. We're not going out there intentionally and listening. Another point you're making too, for those that are writing down notes, it's always a big part of the show, Mike, is when the audience got to write down these notes, they can put this great information into action, is investing in strategic advantages. Sounds like you have seen great success from investing in some technology that your competitors are not. Maybe that investment, hurt a little bit when you first started doing it, but now that it's across all your customer base, you're reaping the rewards, and it's going to take months or years for your competition to catch up.
Yeah, 100%. I think so. I think as you're talking, I was thinking about something else that helped us break through plateaus. We hit a plateau. When you're small, it's easier to continue to grow, but at some point when you start adding employees and you start building systems, and you have accounting systems now, you have a VoIP system, you have potentially a ticketing system, different things to manage your business, it becomes very cumbersome. And so you have to be able to blast through that plateau, as I would call it. It's just kind of an administrative plateau. How do I, as an entrepreneur or a sales leader, kind of free my mind of a lot of the day-to-day clicks and things that I got to do? So for us, it ended up being about 5 years ago that we hit those heavy administrative plateaus and decided we need a better way to manage our day and our time. Now we went with an operating system for our business meetings and our structure and our cadence. There's several out there, but that was huge for us. I mean, we started to identify problems on a weekly basis. We now meet and talk about KPIs over a meeting together once a week, just to talk about our successes from last week. Maybe failures as well. Are those failures important to talk about so we can solve those problems? Are we running into those friction items every week still? That seemed to keep us in that plateau. And that's what that's all about, is to eliminate the friction items that are keeping you scrambling. When you're in that mentality, what's important about that is it allows you each week to think, when you're hitting that scramble in the middle of that, putting out that fire at 8 a.m. in the morning, like, well, I can choose not to have this fire happen every week, right? So that's the choice you have to make, is say, let's figure out what was the foundational reason why that happened, and look to solve that in a short period of time so we can move on to the next one. And that's really been those tactics have been huge for us on when we hit those. Now they're mini plateaus, and then we look to solve those and we get past them.
Man, so you're hitting on some pretty good things. I did want to put this comment up here. Somebody's appreciating you being on the show, Mike. So loving the new guest from, looks like Amber. Thank you guys for always love those comments from the audience. So what you're talking about now is really a cultural component. Thinking of how do we add clarity for the team so that we can identify the challenges, identify the friction points, and then actually do something about it. And yes, that has great positive impact with overcoming the plateau, servicing your customers better. There's also something else to that too, is when you have a system in place like what you're talking about, your employees feel that clarity. They feel that sense of ownership, and that's a better place to work, right? Because I know that my contribution is going to have an impact in the company. I know if I bring up potential problems that the entire team is going to be committed to fixing them. People enjoy working in that environment much more than when they feel like they're a number, or they feel like they raise their hand and it just gets pushed right down because their voice doesn't matter. It sounds like you really had an impact there and have reaped the benefits on both sides.
Yeah, I would say if we're talking about high-level management, executive practices, this goes further than just what I was talking about with short-term, issue solving. We do 10-year, 5-year, 3-year, 1-year planning. Every single year, we look at what we built for our plans, and do we need to make a change to it? How did last year go? Did we hit our targets? So, you've heard the term BHAG. We love we love
Big,
BHAGs.
hairy, audacious goal. Yeah, absolutely.
Love some BHAGs, man. I'll tell you, it's scary when you make a BHAG. And they're big and hairy. And I think it's an important thing, though, when you actually go through the process of trying to reach a BHAG, and then you either reach it or you closely attain your goal.
Yeah.
You look back like, I had no idea I could do this for myself. And that's where you get more comfortable with, like, oh, wow, the goals I was setting over the last 10 years were so low. All of a sudden, you just kind of like reach, let's figure out, how do we set a 1-year BHAG, work backward and set up your week to week and month to month and quarter to quarter system so that you can reach those goals. And I think that is huge for us. We put together core values, we put together a focus, we can identify these targets and the marketing strategies to just make sure we are, at least, some of it feels common sense, like, oh, I know how to do this. But when you put it down on paper and you plan properly, you can always go back to that, say, am I on track or am I off track? And you hit a moment in the year where, like, how you're just spiraling and things don't look great. These are documents that help you to get back in line with your goals.
Absolutely, man. This is huge. So, here's what I'm doing again. I'm going through my head. Everything that all this great insight you're sharing is, how do we get out of these plateaus? They're inevitable for any company. And we start with listening to customers, reducing customer churn, getting that free market research of what's going on in our customers' world, because that's really where we're going to solve their problems and be valuable to them. And then investing in strategic advantages, so that we can outperform our competition down the road, right? That's the point of those strategic advantages. They don't pay off today, but they pay off greatly down the road as they're fully implemented. So that's a huge takeaway there, Mike. And then there's let's build a culture for employees, right? Think of probably one of the biggest challenges to go from 2 employees to over 70 is employee churn, employee retention, employee value. Like, there's a lot you have to overcome in that growth, and having a plan, whether it's a 10-year, 5-year, 3-year, 1-year plan, having ways for employees to share their voice and also bring good ideas, be creative and valuable. Sounds like, all of that makes a real big impact. And then this last one that you said, which is my biggest takeaway from today, Mike, so I'm glad you're sharing all this, is, are we setting our goals? Are our goals big and hairy enough, right? Are they scary enough to where we're going to start doing things bigger? If I'm stuck at a plateau, it's a good chance that the goals I'm setting for myself are just keeping me in that middle section, right? Mediocrity at its finest. If I can set some bigger goals and get comfortable being uncomfortable, then we're going to see bigger outputs and bigger things happen.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think it's huge. Yeah. If I could touch a little bit more on the cultural side, talk about that. You think about, okay, we might have had 2 employees, but we own the company and we're on the line. So we still would, we'd still get under each other's skin. And for me, I don't know if I'll give a book recommendation, but my favorite book that I learned, and it's part of the same series, we follow EOS and Traction. But How to Be a Great Boss by Gino Wickman.
Absolutely. Great book.
When you're a founder and owner operator and you move to start adding employees, and we didn't discover this system until 7 years into the company. Probably would have been helpful earlier, but because we definitely hit those revolving doors and the spinning of wheels for several years before we were just like, I need to reach out. I had broken that, I need to find somebody who's going to tell me better. And so moving through that, what How to Be a Great Boss really tells you about, and what I've learned from it at least, is, there are some people you hire, you bring in the business, and you're like, oh, I made a mistake. Maybe they're not working out. But that doesn't mean they're not great for your company. You hired them for a reason. And so there's a right seat, right person mentality. Maybe they're just the right person, but they're in the wrong seat. And so it's a big part of our discovery in our staffing here, is always looking for ongoing replacement if we need to replace people because their skill level maybe doesn't fully fit what they're at, but we're growing, right? So there's always seats being added every year. And that's, I think, a big I guess, advantage in growth is that you are able to expand and grow by few employees a year and move those people if they're not perfect, but you love them and you know that they're putting their best effort forward. It's just a matter of like finding a great home for them on a day-to-day basis. I think that's really helped with culture here. Also, setting expectations is another part of that system that I feel like I could probably always do better. But it's setting employee expectations so that they understand why they're here, what is the purpose of going to work every day, what is it in it, what's in it for them. I think it's an important part.
So important.
It's a different mentality. And staffing, it's really important that you set very clear employee expectations, especially in a scalable company. Like, it does. That's also an advantage. Like, hey, we're scaling, we're growing. There's always going to be ups for you. There's going to be opportunities for you to move up in the company as we grow.
Yes, man, there's so much good stuff here. So I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit, Mike, because we're past our 20-minute allotment and just all kinds of alarm bells go off when that happens. So you've got so much insight to offer about the team culture, creating that what's in it for me, component, satisfying that for the team. And also just the challenges that you've been through, going from like kind of the firefighter of the group to designing what you've designed to build your company. So to put you on the spot, can we get you back on the show, Mike, maybe to share some additional insight for our audience on some of these challenges that you've overcome?
Yeah, definitely. I love to teach and talk about the pitfalls that I've run aground on. In business, I think a lot of people can learn from each other. I'm a big proponent of having advisors in my life and also teaching those that are newer or need to learn.
That is great. Okay, really good. In fact, we got somebody from the audience saying, yes, please come back. Please come back on the show. Okay, so we will, you heard it here. Mike will be back on the show. Founder of Propane Ninja, overcame all kinds of obstacles as you've grown your company from over 70 employees covering Central Florida, Tampa area, and South. Amazing. If people want to get in touch with you, where can they find you? A website, or how do they find Propane Ninja?
Yeah, thankful to be. I've fasted away from a lot of social media, but I'm located on LinkedIn and also direct through my website. But LinkedIn probably be best space if you want to direct message me.
Okay, so for those of you watching right now, get in touch with Mike Dodd. Learn more about his company and the great things happening there. We're going to have him back on the show. And with that, we'll wrap it up. Another great episode. Appreciate your valuable insight here, Mike. And we'll see you again on the show very soon.
Thanks, Ben.
See you guys. Thank you.